Welcome to Devils in Red 59. My name is Steve, and today is Thursday, the 26th of February. We're starting off with the finances announcement that came out from Barada yesterday, saying that we were in profit by about £35 million, apparently. But that only goes up till the 1st of December 2025. It's not going to include money that we still owe to Sporting for Ruben Amrin, and it's not going to include monies that are owed to Ruben Amrin since his sacking. So, it's not as rosy as it's been painted. And obviously, we're getting all this spin now about the club's cutbacks are obviously starting to show on the books, and everything's looking rosy. But obviously, all this is spin type stuff to make the fans think Ineos are doing a better job, and probably what they are. But you can guarantee towards the end of the season that it's going to be the club hasn't got much money and we need to sell to buy. So obviously, those type of things are going to come out. So for Ineos to say what they're saying and try and paint things as being very rosy, I mean, it's wrong of them to do that when we know what's likely to be coming. Buy, sell to buy, and obviously we've got no money. Ineos are strongly hoping that we get the Champions League so that we get the additional 100 million for qualifying. And it wouldn't surprise me if they don't sort of encourage Bruno this summer. Now's probably the time to move on Bruno, because they'll be relying on his release clause, which is about 60 odd £1 million to put towards a budget. They've obviously got the saving on Rashford's wages, Sancho's wages, Anthony's wages, that was all in excess of £300,000 a week, as well as Casemiro leaving, around about the 350 a week. So obviously, with all those savings, and if they move Bruno on and get the additional money in for him, and we qualify for the Champions League and get the 100 million there, then I think that's the money that the club will be looking at spending. If we don't qualify for the Champions League, I think it's going to be a very, very tight window in the summer, in the fact that Ineos have got no money. So, I just hope it doesn't go down the latter. I hope we qualify for the Champions League and get that additional revenue, as well as the savings we're making on wages on the players that have already left and the ones that are going to leave. On top of that, we've got Ugarte that will probably go. I think Ugarte, I think this is probably his second or second season, I believe. So we're probably not going to get a lot of money for him, based on he hasn't played a lot of game time over the last sort of 12 months. So we'll probably only break even on what we owe out on money for buying him. Xerxes is going to be another one. There has been interest from Italian clubs, but we all know the Italian clubs don't pay a lot of money. So I think with Xerxes, if he goes, he's going to sort of be a break-even figure, 30 million or 35 million, whatever's still owed on him. The only thing we're going to get out the likes of Ugarte and Xerxes when they go is the saving on their wages. Now, obviously, talking about wages and that, it's come out today that Barcelona are apparently interested in buying Martinez. He's got 1 year left on his contract with an option of +1, and it's very rare that the clubs will let the players go into that last year of contract, even though they've got a +1 on there. Now, Martinez is 28 years of age. His next contract, whether it be with Man United or Barcelona or anybody else that came in for him, will be probably his last main contract, 4 or 5 year contract. He's currently reportedly at the moment being on about £120,000 a week, which really is not a lot of money for a World Cup winner. The experience he's got, and he's in contention for probably our next captain if Bruno leaves. Now, obviously, if they sit down with Martinez and discuss the possibility of a new contract, if you look at the likes of De Ligt, I believe De Ligt's on around about the £200,000 a week. And you've got the likes of Mason Mount that very rarely plays on £250,000 a week. So I doubt very much whether Martinez is going to entertain United talking to him and say, well, we'll give you 150 or 160. Because he's going to say, well, Mount's on 250 a week and he very rarely plays. And the guy that usually plays at the side of me in De Ligt, he's on around £200,000 a week. So, you want me to sign a new contract, I want the same money as what De Ligt's on. Will United do that? Because we all know that they like to save money, they try to reduce money, especially with the likes of Harry Maguire. In the process of signing a new contract, it's reported that his wages are being looked at. He's currently on about 190 a week, and I think the talks are round about the £100,000 a week for Harry to sign an extension to his contract. But I can't see Martinez accepting anything less than what De Ligt is getting, which is reportedly round about the £200,000 a week. And, you would have to say as a in line for a future captain to sign a new contract. I think he's right in saying, yes, I want the same as my co-player in De Ligt. The younger players, Yoro and Heaven, obviously they're only just starting off in their football career, so obviously they're on a lot lower wage, but for the experience Martinez has got, I think he'd be well justified demanding that sort of money. But coming off to that now, obviously, our main thing is the next two games that we've got coming up. The first one's on Sunday against Crystal Palace, and then we've got one on the Wednesday after against Newcastle. Now, these are two games really that we really need to get 3 points out of on each game. Crystal Palace, they're not in the best of places at the moment. I mean, they lost Gowie in the January window. He went for some good money to Manchester City, and he's been put onto a good wage by joining them. But obviously, Crystal Palace with Glasner leaving in the summer, I think that's upset the club. They're not in a very good place. Mateta, the main striker, number 9, apparently he's out injured and he's not going to be able to feature in the game against Manchester United. So there's a very good opportunity for us there to go out on Sunday and get 3 points against Crystal Palace. Our last game against Everton, was quite a bit rusty in various parts of the field, and we really need to see people like Luke Shaw stepping up, because I think he really needs to support Cunha on the left-hand side. In the last game, I think Cunha was left to his own devices. Shaw wasn't going as far forward as he has done in previous games to give him that support, so I think Shaw really needs to, in this game, make sure he's pushing up to the halfway line to give that support to Cunha. Obviously, Kobe Mainu, he was a little bit rusty, so he needs to make sure in this game against Palace that his passing is a lot sharper and a lot more direct than it was against Everton. Casemiro was a little bit quieter, but we all know the way Casemiro plays. you know, the ball will come and it's one touch knock to one of the flanks to either Cunha or Mbeumo or Ahmad. So, you know, from Casemiro's point of view, you know, he does move the ball on quite quickly. So obviously Mainu needs to come up on his game for that and make sure that his passing's more direct, a lot faster, to give our forwards the opportunity to get on the end of it and create something. Again, Bruno was a little bit quiet and rusty in the last game also. So we really need Bruno in this particular game to be at the top of his game and generate things, you know, get the chances created up front, because we all know when he's on form, you know, he can put some elite passes through to our forwards, you know, to give them a chance of getting in the back of the goal. Harry Maguire and Yoro, I think they will obviously still start. I can't see Carrick making any changes as such. I mean, there is a call for Sesko to start this game. I think at the end of the day that Crystal Palace will have looked at the previous games against Everton and West Ham and thought, well, they created United a problem by playing a low block. So I should imagine that Crystal Palace will, to all intents and purposes, play a bit of a low block. But if we can penetrate that early within the first 20 minutes and get a goal, the good thing is, unlike when Amrin was here, he would get a go ahead by a goal and then he would sit and try and defend it. At least what we've seen under Michael Carrick is when he gets a goal, he encourages the players to go and try and get that second one. Now, if we get an early first goal, I think what that will do, that will force Crystal Palace to start coming forward a lot more to try and get their equaliser, which will create more space at the back for our forwards to operate in. And I think if we can get that second goal, it pretty much will kill the game off. Because as I say, I don't think Crystal Palace are in the best of places at the moment, you know. And then obviously from that game, we've got to look to the game against Newcastle at Newcastle on Wednesday. Now, Newcastle haven't been particularly good in the Premiership this year. They're below us with Crystal Palace, but we know that we've had problems in the past against the lower side, you know, where we should have won them. You know, we've dropped points, and we're at the time of the season now where we can't allow teams below us to be getting something out of the game. Newcastle, I believe, you know, they're, because they're playing 2 games a week, they are doing quite well in the Champions League, and I think that's what they've been giving more concentration to. So it's a good opportunity again for us to go to Newcastle on Wednesday and try and get something out the game. Now, if here and now somebody said, we'll give you 3 points for Crystal Palace and a draw, which is a point at Newcastle, so 4 in total, I think we'd all take that. But being greedy, I think we've got to try and get that 3 points out of Crystal Palace first, and then go to Newcastle on Wednesday and try and get the 3 points there. That'll really benefit us, because then it all depends on what Villa do over their next 2 games. I mean, if they get a loss and a win, then that puts us into 3rd place, because Villa with injuries at the moment, especially in their midfield, are not in the best of places. So with Villa, I think they come up after the Newcastle game. If we can win those 2 games, we can go into the Villa game, you know, with some good confidence at the back of us, work on their weakness of their midfield, and hopefully nick something out of that one as well. So, you know, with those 2 games, we've really got to try and get those 3 points. It's a bit of a short video today, because obviously there are things in the news that were being linked to various players again, but I think it's just a lot of Ineos spin, between now and the end of the season. And as we've said before, we're not going to get a true picture as to who we're really going after until we know we've got that Champions League spot and we know we've got that additional revenue coming in. And then I think it'll become more clear as to who our targets are going to be. I know we've mentioned Elliot Anderson and Belaber and Stiller and Walton and so forth, but I don't believe we know exactly who we go for till we know what revenue we've got. So let's all keep our fingers crossed that we do get that Champions League spot. I believe we'll get that Champions League spot because Liverpool and Chelsea have dropped off a bit, and we've got to capitalise on that, as well as Villa being shaky. We've got to capitalise on that as well. So there's no reason at all, if everything goes our way and we get a bit of luck, that we can't finish, in that third position. It'd be a good position to finish in, guaranteed revenue, and then we'll see what's happening then in respect of potential purchases and anybody that might be leaving the club that's going to bring in a bit of revenue to help with the cause as well, because we really do need to build our side for next season if we get the Champions League spot, because we're going to be playing 2 games a week, and then we've got the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup games on top of that, which, it'd be nice to get through those this year instead of going out in the first rounds of them, because again, it's extra games at Old Trafford, so it's extra revenue coming in there as well, and we need all the additional revenue that we can get our hands on. So let's all keep our fingers crossed for that. Michael Carrick, again, people are calling for him still now to get the job. I don't think there's anybody else out there that can realistically come in at this particular moment in time with the record that Carrick is building. I think he's going to be in position for that job if he continues, and quite rightly, in my opinion. But I'd like to thank everybody again for viewing my videos. Keep viewing them, keep sharing them, keep smashing a like, turn on your notifications, and most of all, please subscribe to the channel. The next video will be on Saturday, so I look forward to doing that. So all keep safe, and I'll speak to you then. Thank you very much.